Hey guys, Joe here with the Portland Seattle Coffee Gear, and today we're going to take a little departure and just talk about coffee. Sorry for that slurping noise, but besides being a really good drink, it has a very hefty history behind it that's pretty brilliant and grows with the expansion of Western culture. So anecdotal evidence points towards the foundation of coffee around 1000 AD, like people actually discovered it and paid attention reliably to this, was the upper regions of Africa. Anecdotally, goat herders noticed their goats eating these bright red berries and being playful, dancing around. And these herders were like, well, hey, what are these guys eating? Hey, my goats are eating that and not dying. Let's eat that and dance around too. And they would get a lot of energy from this, just chewing on the beans raw and eating them, which I imagine was not very pleasant because raw coffee is incredibly tart. So they got this energy and, culinarily speaking, as the product developed, there were early versions of fermentation going into it, wet processing, which we call one of the processes of coffee these days to break down the mucilage around the bean, is pretty darn old. These regions where these goat herders were, where they started to cultivate coffee, would wet ferment their coffee beans and then take that mush that would come off and make these little round candy-like balls that were by no means sweet, and eat them, get energy. Monks visiting from countries as missionaries would eventually develop their own system of grinding the beans down and working the paste into things to help stay up all night when they were praying and working on the sort of things you do in monasteries in the middle of other countries. Eventually, coffee expanded to Yemen, where it was produced more than anything else, and that was the main region where coffee was grown for a very long time. From there, thanks to the Dutch, who were very prolific traders, they brought coffee west when it entered Europe and England, France, Italy as a whole, and each country got their hands on this really weird drink and started experimenting and playing. Original coffee brewing systems were basically just boiling water, sock, brew for a long time, drink. Total over-extraction. Eventually, urns were developed that had a brewing system in the middle with a hot water system around the outside that would insulate the coffee, keeping it more static, but not boil it, which is what was eventually discovered to be the improper way to enjoy coffee, was from boiling. From there, in the early 1800s, those urns became the original percolating vacuum pots, which is pretty brilliant. They started in France, but the ones that we see everywhere, especially like the Hario ones, those are all based off of a German design that I think was invented around 1813. Pretty cool. And then everything changed in 1901, and especially in 1906 at the World's Fair in Italy that year. In 1901, the first patent for what could arguably be called an espresso machine was invented. It didn't work, but it was patented. In 1906 at the World's Fair, a gentleman whose last name is La Pavoni, which is a name people should recognize. I can't remember his first name, so I'm going to say Pete La Pavoni, took that design and created the first steam pressure espresso machine. It's totally different than what we would expect today. It brewed coffee at around 2 to 3 bars, which is not strong enough to extract coffee how we understand it now. And apparently the system was hated. Like, it brewed a really bad cup, but it was the first individual to-order coffee made pretty much ever in that system, and it spread like wildfire. Eventually, La Marzocco became the first company to commercially produce espresso machines, and they are still a powerhouse today. But then on the opposite side of things, in 1906, German woman whose last name escapes me, but her first name was Melita, invented the original pour-over filter as we understand it today. She took a cooking sieve, poked 2 holes in the bottom, and stuck a paper filter in there. Lo and behold, 2 years later, she patented the design, and she and her husband made bank. Espresso sort of went its own way, really very broadly in Italy. A lot of people tried to invent a number of different systems, but eventually the heat exchanger came around. Ernesto Valentino in 1961 invented the E61 group head and publicly licensed it, which is why we see that group head around a lot, which is pretty cool. And thank you, Ernie. On the pour-over side of things, the Chemex came around in 1941 in America. In the 50s, Kalita, a company that we know for the Kalita Wave, came about, making their version of the Melita pour-over cone. In the 70s, the precursor to the Hario V60 came about, which the Hario V60 is around 2005. And at the end of the day, what's old is new. The vacuum pot, siphon brewing, various forms of long-time immersions are starting to gain popularity again these days. Coffee is cyclical, culture is cyclical. It's a really fun adventure, so sit back and enjoy.